Hi everyone, welcome to All About Sessions again. I was away for some time and for some good reasons, so I'm back and I'm going to present. Or say first of all, as per our usual practice, what we do is that we will review that what we have been doing. So we should remember, or say we should recall that where we were. So we were designing our entire data center, all of the components, everything. And the reason was to understand how we do the designing, network segregation, and how to locate our components in all of the different network zones. What is the redundancy? Till there, we reviewed each and everything. So in a broader manner, if I show you actually, so here was our user in pretty much yellow color, right? And he was trying to browse one website from his home. He had one router, and then he was connected to some ISP and trying to access the website. And that website landed into a perimeter network of a data center where the perimeter layer was there and the presentation layer was there. In the presentation layer was there were some say kind of firewall was there, proxy server was there, or load balancer was there, then switches were there, and then application servers were there, storage was there, database server were there were racks which were connected to the with the different from with the different application say devices, right? And also we were having some infrastructure components like LDAP, DNS, DSCP, print server. We'll learn about these things again. Okay, but over here, before we go ahead and we talk about anything, any component very much in deep, we have to understand that how to achieve high availability. Okay, so in the last session, we learned about the redundancy. So what was the redundancy? When we talk about the redundancy, then we talk about that each and every component has a recovery point, or say backup, or say a redundant component, like one switch is there and we are adding one more switch, like in here, we are always keeping two switches all together. Okay, but but what does but will that achieve high availability? You are just making the component redundant. So you make all of the component redundant, but will you be able to achieve high availability? That is a big question. Okay, to make sure that the high availability is there, your application also should support. Okay, and the most important thing is the data. Data should be there. It means that user should not feel a single thing, right? So it should not happen that the user's session will be out and user will not be able to retrieve the data which was in the session, and all of the work is gone. So there is no point. This is the redundancy cannot achieve that. For that, you will have to do the high availability design. So what does the high availability design means? That's a question. Okay, to achieve the high availability, we have to make sure that what kind of application is there. Okay, and whether that application will support the high availability or not. And if not, what are the changes which will be required to make into the application, that so that it will utilize the capability of the redundant component. It means that if our redundant device is down, okay, and another device will take over, so what will be the impact? Okay, and how the application will respond or handle that change? Like, in the background, if you will say that the user was connected to the router, and over here, as we can say that this is application server 1 and application server 2, right? And all of the data was, first of all, was going from the 4.5 server, and then suddenly it was down and all of the data was being handled by 4.6. Okay, now what will happen is that what will happen to the session data, because it will be residing into the server. It will not be residing anywhere. So how the session data will be handled. Okay, for that, normally what happens is that, okay, there are two kind of architectures over here. It is a very simple thing, okay, but we make it complex, okay, and the complexity in here when we are going to implement that. How we are going to implement it, it is very much on the dependent on the architects. It is very much dependent on the business goals of company and the budget as well. Okay, what we can do is that we can connect it to the shared drive, okay, and we can put all of our data over there, and as soon as this 4.6 will take care, and it will pick up all of the data from there, and it will take it back, or say it will start communicating on behalf of the 4.5. Similarly, what we can do is that we can put all of the data into the database, okay, and from that database, the 4.6 can also get the data, right? On the other hand, this was a completely a kind of a switch off architecture, I will say, that if 4.5 is not available, then the 4.6 will take over, right? And then it will work. But what in case that you want to keep the performance measurement for the case of a failover? It means that if suddenly what happens is that 4.5 has got 100 of the 100 clients connected to it, and 4.6 all of the clients whoever were connected were gone. So all of the load is coming where? 4.5. So what load balancer will do? Load balancer may or may not put some of the requests on 4.6. Here, I hope you are able to understand what I'm saying, that this 4.5 has got approximately 100 and 4.6 has got very less. Okay, so the load balancing should work, right? That is also called the load balancing. Okay, and that load balancer is here. Okay, so this load balancer will sense that how many sessions 4.5 has got and how many sessions 4.6 has got. Okay, and accordingly, it will balance the sessions. But at the same time, the balancing, when it will be balancing, it should transfer all of the data to 4.6. It should be smooth takeover, and then it will work. So similarly, what will happen? Okay, now we were right now talking about a very simple architecture. Okay, now let's go into a little bit more complex world. Okay, and now today we will add one more application layer, that is called the middleware. So middleware layer. Okay, so middleware is supposed to connect it to, so what happens actually? Application connects to the middleware layer, and the middleware layer connects to the database. Okay, and the architecture over here, whatever box that you are looking at, it remains practically the same. So what we can do is that we can select the all of the things, only the IP addresses will change, and we will put, sorry, okay, whatever are not copied, we will copy it later on. Okay, so we can add those things, right? So this will happen to be a middleware over here. Okay, right. So while we are going into a complex world, why we are going into this complex world, we will also talk about this. So this may be 5 and this may be also 5. Okay, let's delete this as of now. Okay, and let's put the name like M app, because this is a middle layer app. It is also M app and M. Okay, let's not make it very complex as of now in terms of the visibility. Okay, just make sure that whatever connectivity will go. Okay, now what will happen is that okay, these servers are just web servers. What these are doing are just storing the session data. It does not have anything, no data. Okay, but these are the middleware layer. Okay, these are much bigger servers which are moreover supporting the database IOs. Okay, so whatever read writes are there, they are putting in hold and they are going into the batch into the database, so that the load is also, it is not that it is less often the IO of the database is being used. So these also need to be high available. Okay, so what happens in eventually is that in the application layer, what we do is that we configure that either use this server, and if this server is not available, use another server, or what we do is that we put one another server. Okay, we put another server over here which will be called as load balancer. Okay, and it will work. Okay. Other thing what can be done is that we should learn about the cluster. Okay. What is a cluster and what is the difference between a cluster and a load balancer? It is a very important thing to understand that the load balancers are the individual entities, and load balancer contains a lot of information. What kind of information? What are the capabilities of the load balancers are there? We will learn in the next session for sure. And the difference between the load balancer and the cluster. So what happens is that these applications, you should understand always that which applications are able to handle the load balancer architecture, which applications are supporting the cluster architecture. Okay, cluster is most oftenly the proprietary or say principal vendors architecture, whereas load balancer, it can be any technology, but mostly what load balancer does is that just listens and does the traffic transfer. But in cluster, if one service is down, another services will be bring up. Okay, load balancer does not have that capability unless it is a very customized load balancer. Right. So we will learn about all those things. But over here, the important thing over here is to understand what is HA. So HA means, does not means only achieving the redundancy. HA means that the application architecture, that what you are going to put in your application, okay, how the application code will be there, how they will handle the session. In the session, we will talk about all these application session data very much into the details, and we will come back on this. Okay, that what kind of data, like, it can contain the user ID, it can contain some transactional details, it can contain some order details. So if the order is there, it is a very huge order, and suddenly 4.5 will go away, then what will happen? That huge order will go, and it should not happen. So that data should be stored in where? In any database or in the shared location from where 4.6 can pick up. That's the point of the HA over here, right? And those code are very much inbuilt to the application and nowhere else. So those logics need to be achieved. And being the infrastructure engineer, you have the right to ask this at least once from the application owner, whether your application will be able to handle the session data or not. Or if you are going to put your load balancer in a very wrong logic that it should load balance based on the usage of 4.5 and 4.6, it will break the all of the logics. So that's the point. It was a short session, but important one. So HA, we have to make sure we have to ask some questions from the application team, and only then we can decide that what will be the exact load balancer logic and the cluster logic in your application. All right. Okay. Thank you very much.